Dialogue dives are some of my favorite videos to do, and based upon the response I've gotten from all you beautiful people, you seem to enjoy them as well. So it's kind of incredible that after all this time, I have yet to do a dialogue dive on the work of the king of dialogue, Quentin Tarantino. So I thought to finally fix that by taking a deconstructive look at Pulp Fiction, one of the most famous and entertainingly written movies of all time. The scene we will be looking at today is the ultra-iconic burger scene. One of Tarantino's greatest skills is his ability to write smooth, organic dialogue. This means when you are listening to the dialogue, it just seems right. You don't second guess it as a watcher, you just enjoy it. And because of that, the dialogue within can seem really easy to pull off, almost as if Tarantino is effortlessly writing simple, believable dialogue. But that is the beauty of good dialogue. When it's done well enough, a consumer won't be able to tell how complex it is. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, this will not be me giving a review or an opinion of the scene. Rather, this will be an almost too in-depth breakdown of the functional, objective writing techniques used to craft the dialogue within. As a full-time editor for scripts and an author of 5 books myself, it's my pleasure and utter addiction to unpack high-level writing so that we might all improve our own skills in dialogue. Or if you're not a writer, just better appreciate the material for what it is. So finally, here is the breakdown of how this video will go. I will play the clip of the burger scene, and when I find a moment of interest, I will pause and break down the dialogue within. If you want to watch the full clip without my commentary beforehand, I will put a link in the description below. So, without further blabbering from me, let's jump right into it.
Hey kids, how you boys doing?
Hey, keep chilling.
You know who we are? We're associates of your business partner, Marcellus Wallace.
So, sorry to stop so soon, but what can I say? There is a lot to go over in this scene. First, let's talk about the scene structure. Where every other scene that I have done a dialogue dive on is set up in a 3-act structure, intro, midsection, and climax, this scene in Pulp Fiction is different. It is a 2-act structure. Why is this important? Well, narratives and scenes set up in a 3-act structure are meant to show the gradual rise to a climax, with a descent into a resolution. Narratives in a 2-act structure depict an abrupt change, meant to juxtapose the 2 story halves against each other. TV Tropes has a great definition for 2-act structures. They write, "The story is neatly divided into 2 parts. The first part will be lighthearted and straightforward compared to the second, which will wrap things up in a realistic, mixed bag sort of way. It comes in 2 flavors, the rise and fall variety, which has everything on the up and up in the first act, and in the second act, shoots it all to hell." Now, if you know anything about this scene, you know how accurate that is, but we'll get into that later. For now, I want to quickly break down why the upcoming dialogue is used as it is. So much of being able to write compelling dialogue is having high situational awareness of your narrative and how your audience is consuming it. And yeah, I know that sounded about as pretentious as can be coming off the tongue, but just hear me out. If you think about the actual events of this burger scene, we can start to gain a clear picture of the artistic choices and writing techniques used to enhance it. The scene is almost 7 minutes long, which is pretty beefy all things considered, but the actual events of the scene are very few in number. When you get down to it, all that happens is Jules and Vincent walk in, they find the suitcase, and they kill Brett and his friend. That's the whole scene. We don't learn what's in the suitcase, we don't learn what Brett did to Marcellus Wallace, we don't get any other relevant plot information. Another writer could have thought up these events and made a 30-second scene of entering, shooting, and getting the goods. But that would have been a waste of a scene, at least for this film, and Tarantino recognized that. A good writer is always looking for every opportunity to entertain their audience and build their characters, and sometimes that means dramatizing the simple. Tarantino took a scene that could have been straight action and slowed it down significantly to focus on the characters and their interactions. And the best way to do that is through dialogue. So, if the scene was going to be given life through dialogue, Tarantino then had the task of using the dialogue most effectively. But dialogue is a tool for creation. It's always used to build something in a narrative, from building the plot, to building personality for the characters, to building the world. But in this scene, Tarantino chose to use the dialogue to build tension. Now, tension in a narrative setting is derived from mystery, from the unknown, and the consequences that arrive from the unknown. Shortly before Jules and Vincent enter the building, we saw them ready a few guns. Tarantino certainly purposefully showed this to the audience to give us the expectation that people were going to die, or at least be shot. We, as the audience, expect conflict and opposition. And fostering that expectation was a great decision, because the opening dialogue to the scene is contradictory to that expectation. It subverts it. Jules and Vincent walk in and they are super nice. There aren't armed assailants waiting for them in the apartment, just some regular jabronis. There isn't open conflict, there isn't open opposition, but there is the subtext of it, and that creates the tension. Instead of immediately jumping into violence, Tarantino keeps us on the edge of our seat with dialogue, waiting for the violence to happen, wondering if it will happen. We as the audience don't know anything about Jules or Vincent. We don't know if they're here to intimidate or to murder, and that mystery creates tension over the consequences. And the subtext of the scene is meant to heighten the threat of that potential by putting Jules in a position of power over Brett and his friend. Now, I've talked about subtext in a few of my other dialogue dives, but we can definitely go over it again here. Subtext is the implicit, underlying meaning, message, and theme of dialogue, and it's very hard to pull off because you basically have to write two conversations at once. You have the spoken, explicit conversation, and then the unspoken, implicit conversation. Think of it almost like subliminal messaging. With all that in mind, let's look again at what Jules says and does just in the first few moments of this scene.
Hey, kids. How you boys doing?
Hey, keep chilling.
He walks in, greets the guys with a smile, and tells them that they can relax. But that is the message of the explicit dialogue. The implicit dialogue is much more intimidating. First off, Jules doesn't call Brett and his friends gentlemen or sirs. He says,
Hey, kids. How you boys doing?
He views them and treats them like children, lesser than him. And I know this seems super small, almost to the point of being a "the curtains were blue" moment, but trust me, it's these little things that make dialogue effective. Secondly, Jules keeps Brett's friend on his back under the guise of friendly dialogue. Keep relaxing. Of course, the underlying purpose of this is to make the man defenseless against Jules. It's a lot harder to dodge bullets on your back. Just in these first few moments, Jules establishes a dominant position of power and control through dialogue. So, to sum everything up that we've gone over, this whole scene is given power because of tension. And the tension is created because of the threat of violence. And the violence becomes more threatening the more powerful Jules becomes. So the dialogue uses subtext to build up Jules' power and authority without the explicit use of violence. Over the first half of the scene, we'll make note of all the non-violent ways that the dialogue allows Jules to establish his power and authority.
You know who we are? We're associates of your business partner, Marcellus Wallace. You do remember your business partner, don't you? Now let me take a wild guess here. You're Brett, right?
Yeah.
I thought so. You remember your business partner, Marcellus Wallace, don't you, Brett?
So here is the primary tool Tarantino uses to establish Jules' power and control in the scene. Questions. One of the hidden ways that writers make characters feel powerful to an audience is to have that character control the flow of a conversation. Dialogue is the blood of a narrative, so having a character control what people talk about almost makes that character in control of the story itself. Everyone else involved in the dialogue is marching to their beat. Jules controls the dialogue through constant questioning. Pay attention to just how many questions Jules asks across the scene and the type of questions being asked.
Yeah, I remember.
Good. Looks like me and Vincent caught you boys at breakfast. Sorry about that. What you having?
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers! The cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
Not only is Jules controlling the conversation by asking questions, he's asking questions he already knows the answers to. The hamburger is just out in the open for everyone to see. This is a great way to make a character feel condescending, as if they're toying with the other person in the conversation. It adds to that character's position of authority and power. Pretty much every single question Jules asks, he already has the answer figured out. But at the same time, the back and forth comes off just like small talk. It comes off as nice, but that's why it feels so wrong. It's the subtext of intimidation and the tension of violence that gives the scene power.
What kind of hamburgers?
Cheeseburgers.
No. Where'd you get them? McDonald's, Wendy's, Jack in the Box, where?
Big Kahuna Burger.
Big Kahuna Burger. That's that Hawaiian burger joint.
Here it is again. Obviously, Jules can see the food is from Big Kahuna Burger. It's right there on the cup and the bag. But he's not asking for knowledge. He's asking these questions for dominance, like an interrogation. Jules is patronizing Brett, just like a child.
I hear they got some tasty burgers. I ain't never had one myself. How are they?
They're good.
You mind if I try one of yours? This is yours here, right? This is a tasty burger.
This is where the subtext of the dialogue should start to become obvious. Jules is literally eating this man's food. But he doesn't take the burger. He does something more authoritative. He asks Brett for the burger. It's humiliating because it gives Brett the illusion of choice and power when there really is none, and Brett knows it. It's one of those non-violent ways Jules uses dialogue to establish power.
Vincent, you ever had a Big Kahuna Burger? Want a bite? They're real tasty.
Ain't hungry.
Well, if you like burgers, give them a try sometime. Me? I can't usually get them because my girlfriend's a vegetarian, which pretty much makes me a vegetarian, but I do love the taste of a good burger. You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France?
No.
Tell him, Vincent.
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. You know why they call it that?
Because of the metric system?
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker, that's right. The metric system.
Here we just get a nice condescending compliment just for good measure.
Send this.
Sprite.
Sprite, good. You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Go right ahead.
That hit the spot.
I mean, come on, the man is literally staring at Brett while drinking his soda. There shouldn't be any ambiguity to what Tarantino is trying to accomplish here anymore. Jules' authority is practically set in stone, and he hasn't even had to raise his voice. Well, yet.
You, flock of seagulls. You know why we're here? Won't you tell my man Vince here where you got your shit hid at?
It's over there.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
And here is where Jules says the quiet part out loud. He's been controlling the conversation and by extension, controlling the men through having them answer his questions. So when one of them speaks up without his prompting, he instantly responds in anger because his control and authority are being undermined. It's this transition from tepid kindness to hostility that validates and amplifies an audience's perception of the danger of this scene. Jules then works to regain control over the conversation by having Brett's friend answer his question.
You were saying?
It's in the cupboard. No, the one by your knees.
We happy? Vincent! We happy?
Yeah, we happy. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't get your name. I got yours, Vincent, right? But I never got your...
My name's Pitt, and your ass ain't talking your way out of this shit.
Here is probably the sentence that informs me most about the writing's attempt to put Jules in a position of power through dialogue. Brett starts to talk, but Jules immediately cuts him off. Brett is trying to find a wedge to move the conversation to be in his control. And remember, for this scene, the conversation is synonymous with power. Jules recognizes Brett's attempt and tries to cut him off, but Brett persists, knowing it's his only chance of having any control of the situation.
No. I just want you to know how... I just want you to know how sorry we are that things got so fucked up with us and Mr. Wallace.
Here is another subtle clue that control of the conversation is synonymous with power in the scene. As soon as Brett starts to talk, he attempts to stand. By speaking of his own accord, he feels he now has the power to be in equal position with Jules. Of course, Jules recognizes this, and just like he told the friend to stay on his back at the beginning of the scene, he motions for Brett to sit. It's all a subtle, subtextual play for power dynamics.
We got into this thing with the best intentions, really. I never...
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration? I didn't mean to do that. Please, continue. You were saying something about best intentions?
And here is the true consequence of Brett continuing to talk after Jules warned him not to. This is where the scene rapidly changes. Now the audience fully understands the threat presented, and the arrival of that threat is heightened because we went from no violence to obscene violence so abruptly. This is also where the first act ends and our darker, hellish second act begins. From this point forward, all pretense of nicety is lost and the intimidation is made overt. However, Tarantino chooses to maintain centering Jules' control of the conversation on questioning. Watch as we go forward.
What's the matter? Oh, you were finished. Oh, well, allow me to retort. What does Marcellus Wallace look like?
What?
What country you from?
What?
What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
What?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
Yes!
Then you know what I'm saying.
So here is when we get to the real fun of the writing. Jules is still using questions, but now it's questions whose answers aren't easy to figure out, and that only ups the tension in the scene. Previously, the dialogue and therefore the questions within were given power by the characters being ahead of the audience. This means that the characters knew plot-relevant information that the audience did not. Brett and his friend knew everything that they had done to Marcellus Wallace, and so did Jules and Vincent. So when the questions were asked...
You remember your business partner, Marcellus Wallace, don't you, Brett?
Yeah, I remember.
They had an understanding of the situation. However, we as the audience didn't know anything about this because this is the start of the movie. And remember what I said about the unknown? It breeds tension. By initially putting the characters ahead of the audience, Tarantino forces the audience to sit in mystery, which further empowers the dialogue. But things have changed here in the second act. Brett is no longer answering questions that he knows the answers to. These questions sound just as strange to Brett as they do to the audience.
What country you from?
Now, Brett and the audience are parallel in their knowledge and ability to answer these questions. And a general rule in storytelling is that a closer a character is to the circumstances of the viewer, the more easily a viewer can relate to that character. Well, here, since the viewer and Brett are parallel in knowledge, we feel even worse for him because we know that we might not fare any better answering these questions. And again, these are all questions that Jules knows the answers to, but is still looking for a specific response. The scene becomes that much more tense because I believe Tarantino wanted us to stew in this situation, sympathizing with Brett in the torture he's enduring.
Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like. What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
He's black.
Go on.
He's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
What?
Does he look like a bitch?
No!
Then why you try to fuck him like a bitch, Brett?
I didn't.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to fuck him. And Marcellus Wallace don't like to be fucked by anybody except Mrs. Wallace. You read the Bible, Brett?
Yes.
Well, there's this passage I got memorized. Sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
This is great. So to cap the scene off, Jules quotes the Bible, which is really kind of perfect when you think about it, because what higher authority and power is there than divine judgment? Jules isn't just working on behalf of a criminal, he is enacting holy retribution. And just to show that writers can really take inspiration from anywhere, let's listen to the first part of that Bible verse again.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children.
Now, not very many might recognize this in the moment, but none of that first part of the verse is actually part of Ezekiel. Tarantino actually pulled that from the beginning of the 1976 Japanese film Karate Kiba.
The path of the righteous man and defender is beset on all sides by the iniquity of selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
Tarantino is a well-known sucker for Eastern fiction like that, so he just put it in Pulp Fiction. It's a small thing, but it is a testament to show that all great writers are thieves, and dialogue can be inspired from anything close to your heart. And speaking of great writers, let's recap how Tarantino enhanced this scene's tension and drama through dialogue. Instead of Jules just walking in, shooting, and getting the briefcase, he made small talk with Brett, took and ate Brett's last meal, shot Brett's friend dead in front of him, shot Brett in the shoulder, literally put the fear of God into Brett with the Bible verse, and then turned Brett into Swiss cheese. That's some pretty good dramatization of a simple scene, if you ask me. Anyway, I hope this way too in-depth breakdown of Pulp Fiction could help some of you writers out there. Dialogue is tricky, possibly the trickiest part of storytelling, so looking at how a master like Tarantino does it can demystify some of the more elusive aspects. Thank you all for watching all the way into the end. If you like what you heard, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If you want to be a real homie, support on Patreon, check out my books on my website, or hop on over to the second channel. Links will be in the description below. As always, it was a pleasure, and I will talk to you all again soon.